History remembers vampires. History remembers wooden stakes. History remembers castles hidden beneath the fog. History remembers terrified villagers who refused to leave their homes after sunset. But there is one place that never appeared on any map. Not because it was hidden, because every map that showed it slowly erased itself. For centuries, travelers spoke in whispers about a valley where the mountains swallowed sunlight, a place where birds refused to fly, where wolves stopped howling, where even the wind would not enter. At the center of that valley stood a single mountain, black as coal. Its cliffs rose so high they seemed to touch the stars. Deep beneath it lay a cave, and beneath that cave, an ancient tomb, older than kingdoms, older than history, older than the first vampire. Every generation heard the same warning: never enter the Black Mountain, never count the tombs, and if you hear breathing, run. Most believed it was only another legend. Until one autumn evening, a group of treasure hunters arrived with shovels, lanterns, and dreams of gold. Their leader laughed when the villagers begged them to leave. "We're not afraid of ghost stories," an old woman quietly answered. "You should be." The men ignored her. At sunset, they climbed the mountain. The villagers watched from below. No one followed. Hours passed. The moon climbed higher. Then, the mountain answered. A single scream echoed through the valley, then another, then silence. The next morning, only one man returned, barefoot, covered in gray dust. His beard had turned completely white overnight. He could no longer speak. No wound marked his body, yet his eyes looked as though they had watched the end of the world. The villagers tried asking what had happened. He never answered. Instead, he picked up a piece of charcoal. On the wall of the village church, he wrote 7 words. They were never buried to die. Then he collapsed, dead. No illness, no injury, only terror. Years passed. No one climbed the mountain again. The path slowly disappeared beneath vines and thorns. Children grew up believing the story was only meant to frighten them, until one winter, a wandering historian arrived. His name was Elias. He collected forgotten legends, lost kingdoms, ancient ruins. The impossible fascinated him. When he heard the villagers speak about the Black Mountain, he smiled. Every legend begins with a real place. The village elder shook his head. No, this place ended one. Elias spent 3 days searching abandoned monasteries. Inside a crumbling library, he found a book bound in black leather. No title, no author's name. Only one strange symbol, a bat, surrounded by 13 stars. The first page contained a warning. This is not the history of vampires. This is the history of their prison. Elias frowned. Prison. He turned another page. Every page had been ripped out, except the last. On it, someone had written only one sentence. The last tomb must never open. That night, Elias packed his lantern, a rope, a journal, and the black book. Before dawn, he began climbing the Black Mountain. The forest grew quieter with every step. No birds, no insects, no flowing streams, only his footsteps. Then, even those disappeared. The ground absorbed every sound. Hours later, he reached the summit. There, hidden behind hanging vines, stood the entrance to the cave. Massive stone pillars surrounded it. Each pillar was carved with hundreds of names. Every name had been scratched out. Above the entrance, an inscription remained untouched. Only the living may enter. Only the dead may leave. Elias forced a smile. I've certainly read worse. He lit his lantern and stepped inside. The cave stretched deeper than any tunnel should. Its walls shimmered with black crystal. The air felt strangely warm, as though something enormous was breathing. Then he found the staircase, 100 stone steps descending into absolute darkness. Each step carried a number: 100, 101, 102, 103. The numbers continued downward. When Elias reached the final step, he stopped. There was no chamber, no treasure, only 13 massive stone tombs arranged in a perfect circle, each sealed with enormous chains, each covered in ancient symbols. 12 of the tombs remained locked. One stood open. Its broken chains lay scattered across the floor. The stone lid was gone. Elias slowly raised his lantern. The open tomb was completely empty. Then, a voice echoed through the darkness behind him. Soft, calm, almost friendly. "You're late." Elias slowly turned around. Someone was smiling in the shadows. The voice echoed through the chamber. Soft, calm, almost welcoming. "You're late." Elias froze. His lantern trembled in his hand. The light danced across the 13 tombs, but no one stood among them. Only shadows, only silence. Then, footsteps, slow, measured, coming from behind the open tomb. One step, another, another. A figure emerged from the darkness. He wore a long black cloak that looked older than the mountain itself. His pale face showed no age. His silver eyes reflected the lantern's flame. His black hair rested across his shoulders like flowing ink. He smiled politely. "You've kept us waiting." Elias tightened his grip on the lantern. "Who are you?" The stranger bowed. "I have carried many names, but once they called me the Keeper." "The Keeper of what?" The man's smile faded. "The door." He slowly pointed toward the open tomb. "The door your world forgot." Elias looked inside the empty stone coffin again. "There isn't anything there." The Keeper quietly laughed. "Exactly. The prison is empty." A cold shiver ran through Elias. "You mean something escaped?" The Keeper answered without hesitation. "No. Someone." Silence filled the chamber. The lantern flame suddenly grew smaller, not because of wind, because the darkness itself seemed to swallow its light. Elias stepped backward. "You said there were 13 tombs." "There are, and only one is open." The Keeper nodded. "The first." Elias slowly counted the remaining tombs. 1, 2, 3, until 12. All chained shut, all perfectly silent. He frowned. "If the first one is empty, then where is the one who was buried there?" The Keeper looked directly into his eyes. "Standing in front of you." Elias felt his heart stop. "You?" The Keeper smiled again. "I was never buried. I volunteered." Before Elias could answer, a deep rumble shook the mountain. Dust rained from the ceiling. One of the chained tombs vibrated. Its iron chains pulled tight. Something inside had moved. Elias instinctively stepped back. What was that? The Keeper did not even look. "They're dreaming." Another rumble. This time, 2 tombs shook. The heavy chains groaned against the stone. Ancient symbols carved into the lids began glowing crimson. The Keeper whispered, "They hear your heartbeat." Elias suddenly realized something. There had been no sound inside the cave, no dripping water, no wind, no insects, only his heartbeat. And now, the tombs answered it. Boom, boom, boom! Every beat of his heart echoed from inside the sealed coffins, as if something buried beneath the stone shared the same pulse. Elias slowly backed toward the staircase. "I should leave." The Keeper nodded. "You should. But you won't." "Why?" "Because you opened the book." Elias frowned. "I only read it. The book chooses its reader. The moment you touched it, The mountain knew your name. The lantern suddenly went out. Complete darkness swallowed the chamber. Elias heard breathing, not one breath, dozens, slow, patient, ancient. Then, his lantern reignited by itself. The keeper had not moved, but something else had. The chains around the second tomb were no longer tight. They hung loose, as though someone inside had gently pulled them apart. Elias whispered, "How old are these tombs?" The keeper answered, "They were sealed. Before the pyramids, before Rome, before Babylon, before written history." Elias stared in disbelief. "That's impossible." The keeper slowly walked toward one of the sealed coffins. He gently placed his hand upon the cold stone. "No. What is impossible is what sleeps inside." Suddenly, the symbols covering every tomb burst into brilliant red light. The entire chamber trembled. The walls cracked. Black dust poured from the ceiling. High above, the mountain roared. The keeper closed his eyes. "They've awakened." A loud metallic snap echoed through the cave. One chain had broken. Then another. Then another. Across the chamber, 12 ancient tombs slowly began unlocking themselves. Elias shouted, "We have to stop this!" The keeper quietly shook his head. "No one can. Not anymore." He looked toward the entrance of the chamber. The seal wasn't broken tonight. It broke the day mankind stopped believing monsters were real. Another chain crashed onto the stone floor, then another. The second tomb slowly shifted. Its massive lid moved, only an inch. But that inch was enough. A freezing breath escaped from inside. Not cold air, a breath, as though someone had patiently waited thousands of years for that very moment. Then, from within the darkness of the opening, 2 crimson eyes opened. The crimson eyes opened. They did not blink. They did not move. They simply watched. Elias couldn't breathe. The massive stone lid had opened only a few inches, yet the presence inside felt enormous, ancient, patient, alive. The keeper stepped between Elias and the tomb. "Do not speak. Do not run. And whatever happens, do not let it hear your fear." Elias whispered, "Can it hear that?" The keeper looked at him. "It can hear everything." Silence returned. Then, a voice emerged from inside the tomb. Not loud, barely louder than a whisper, but it echoed through every corner of the mountain. "How many years?" The keeper answered immediately. "Almost 7,000. The chamber became still. The voice spoke again. "Did mankind survive?" Elias frowned. That wasn't the question he expected. "Not." "Who disturbed my sleep?" "Not." "I thirst for blood." Instead, the creature wanted to know if humanity still existed. The keeper bowed his head. "Yes. They built kingdoms. They crossed oceans. They reached the stars." For a long moment, the voice said nothing. Then, a sigh escaped the tomb. Not one of anger, one of relief. "Then our sacrifice was not in vain." Elias looked at the keeper. "Sacrifice?" The keeper slowly nodded. "You've been told the wrong story." He walked toward the ancient wall. Thousands of carvings covered the black stone. At first, they looked like meaningless symbols. Then Elias raised his lantern. The carvings began to tell a story, not with words, with images. The first image showed people, ordinary families, living peacefully. The second showed the night sky, filled with strange red stars. The third showed something descending from the heavens. Not a comet, not an angel, a shadow. It covered mountains, cities, entire oceans. Where the shadow touched, people collapsed, then stood again, their eyes glowing red. They attacked everyone around them. The fourth carving showed 13 warriors, each carrying a silver torch. They stood against the spreading darkness. The fifth carving made Elias stop breathing. The 13 warriors drank from a black stone bowl. Their eyes turned crimson. Their skin became pale. They became the first vampires. Elias whispered, "No." The keeper nodded. They were never cursed. They chose it. They transformed themselves to stop something worse. The tomb behind them rumbled again. The ancient voice quietly continued, "We became monsters, so mankind wouldn't have to." Elias slowly turned toward the partially opened tomb. "You saved humanity?" The voice answered, "For a while." Another violent tremor shook the mountain. Across the chamber, every remaining tomb began glowing brighter. The chains stretched tighter than ever before. The keeper looked upward. "They're waking too quickly." Elias stared at him. "What exactly are they keeping trapped?" The keeper hesitated. For the first time, fear crossed his face. "Not the vampires." Elias felt cold. "Then what?" The keeper slowly pointed toward the ceiling. "Look." High above, the cave ceiling had cracked open. Moonlight poured through. But something blocked the stars, something enormous, moving, slowly, as though circling the mountain. Elias couldn't understand its shape. It looked like smoke, yet it cast a shadow. It looked alive, yet it had no body. Then, the ancient voice spoke again, this time filled with urgency. "It has found us." The keeper closed his eyes. "I feared this day." Elias asked, "What is it?" The keeper answered with one word, "The hunger." Silence. The name itself seemed to darken the cave. The lantern flame shrank. The red symbols covering every tomb flickered. The keeper continued, "It existed before the world had kingdoms. It cannot be killed. It cannot be imprisoned forever. It feeds on life itself." Elias looked toward the 13 tombs. "So the vampires weren't prisoners?" The keeper shook his head. "They were guards." Another chain snapped, then another. The third tomb slowly opened. A pale hand appeared. Long fingers, black nails. Yet instead of reaching outward, it gripped the edge of the coffin, as if preparing for battle. One by one, the other tombs answered. Stone lids shifted. Ancient breaths filled the chamber. The 12 sleeping guardians were awakening. Not to hunt mankind, to defend it. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed from outside the mountain. The cave entrance exploded inward. A wave of black mist rushed through the tunnels. Every torch went out. Every lantern died. Only the crimson eyes of the ancient vampires still glowed. The keeper drew a sword from beneath his cloak. Its silver blade burst into brilliant white light. He handed another sword to Elias. "I've spent 7,000 years keeping the door closed." He looked toward the advancing darkness. "Now, help me keep it open." The black mist stopped at the edge of the chamber. Inside it, thousands of glowing eyes slowly opened. Thousands of crimson eyes opened inside the darkness. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. The black mist filled the entrance of the ancient chamber like a living ocean. It did not crawl across the floor. It floated, watching, waiting. The keeper raised his glowing silver sword. Its brilliant light pushed the darkness back several feet. The mist hissed, not with anger, with recognition. The ancient voice from the second tomb echoed across the chamber. "It remembers us." The keeper nodded. "It always does." Elias gripped the silver sword with trembling hands. "What exactly is the hunger?" The keeper never looked away from the darkness. "It has no face, no body, no soul. It is the first shadow, the first evil, the first thing that ever wanted mankind to disappear. The mist suddenly surged forward. The chamber shook violently. Every sealed tomb burst into brilliant crimson light. The heavy chains exploded apart. Iron links flew across the cave like arrows, one after another. The 12 stone lids slowly opened. Not dramatically, not violently, with perfect calm, as though 12 kings had awakened from a long night's sleep. The first guardian stepped out. His black armor was covered in ancient silver symbols. A long crimson cloak flowed behind him. His pale face carried centuries of wisdom. His crimson eyes burned like dying stars. Then came the second, a woman with snow-white hair reaching her waist. She wore silver armor shaped like raven wings. A black spear rested in her hand, then the third, then the fourth, until all 12 guardians stood together. Not monsters, warriors, ancient protectors. The keeper bowed his head. The Crimson Order has awakened. Every guardian silently saluted him. Then they looked toward Elias. The first guardian slowly smiled. So, a human finally returned. Elias swallowed hard. You expected me? The ancient woman answered, No. We prayed for you. Before Elias could speak, the entire mountain roared. The black mist exploded into the chamber. Thousands of shadow creatures emerged. Some walked on 4 legs. Some crawled across the ceiling. Others had no shape at all. Only glowing white eyes inside endless darkness. The keeper shouted, Hold the doorway! The Crimson Order charged. Silver blades flashed. Ancient spears pierced the shadows. Every strike filled the cave with blinding white light. But for every shadow destroyed, 3 more appeared. Elias stood frozen. The first guardian grabbed his shoulder. Fight! Instinct finally took over. Elias swung the silver sword. The blade passed through one shadow. A burst of brilliant light erupted. The creature dissolved instantly. He stared in disbelief. It worked. The guardian smiled. Because you still carry hope. The battle spread across the chamber. The mountain itself trembled. Stone pillars collapsed. Ancient symbols cracked. The keeper looked upward. The prison won't survive. The first guardian understood immediately. No, it must. He turned toward Elias. There is another chamber. Beneath this one. Elias frowned. Another tomb? The guardian shook his head. No, a throne. The place where everything began. Suddenly, the floor beneath the open tomb split apart. A massive staircase appeared, descending deeper than the eye could see. Blue light poured upward from below. Unlike the crimson glow of the tombs, unlike the keeper's silver sword, this light felt alive, ancient, pure. The keeper shouted over the battle, Elias, you must reach the throne. What throne? The throne of blood. Elias froze. Blood? The keeper answered, It isn't what you think. It doesn't create vampires. It chooses them. The ancient guardians immediately surrounded Elias. They formed a protective circle. The first guardian spoke quickly. We'll hold the entrance. The keeper will hold the darkness. You must discover the truth. The truth about what? The guardian's crimson eyes darkened. About the first king? Elias stared. I thought there were 13 guardians. There were. So where's the 13th? Silence. Even the battle seemed to pause. The keeper slowly lowered his sword. His voice became almost a whisper. He never entered a tomb. Elias felt a chill run through his body. What happened to him? No one answered. Instead, every guardian looked toward the darkness. The shadow creatures suddenly stopped attacking. They retreated. Not from fear. From respect. The black mist slowly separated. A pathway formed through the shadows. Someone was walking toward them. Heavy footsteps echoed through the cave. 1, 2, 3. A tall figure emerged. Unlike the guardians, he wore a crown. Not gold, black stone. His crimson eyes glowed brighter than all the others combined. Across his back rested a sword, taller than any man. His long cloak was untouched by dust, untouched by time. The 12 guardians slowly dropped to one knee. Even the keeper bowed his head. Elias whispered, "Who is that?" The keeper answered with a trembling voice. "The first king, the one history mistakenly called the first vampire." The crowned figure stopped only a few feet away. He looked directly at Elias. Then he smiled, not with cruelty, with sadness. Finally, he spoke. "Tell me, does mankind still deserve saving?" The crowned figure stood silently. His crimson eyes never left Elias. The chamber became perfectly still. The battle outside stopped. Even the black mist waited. The first king asked again, "Does mankind still deserve saving?" Elias struggled to answer. He had expected a monster, a creature driven by blood. Instead, he found a king carrying unimaginable sorrow. Finally, he spoke. "I don't know." The first king slowly smiled. The only honest answer. The keeper stepped forward. "My king, the seal is failing." The first king nodded. "I know." He looked toward the black mist. "It has waited long enough." Elias frowned. "What exactly is happening?" The first king walked toward the ancient throne beneath the chamber. Its surface shimmered like polished obsidian. 13 empty seats surrounded it. Only one remained occupied. The black stone crown upon his head suddenly began glowing. "You know us as vampires. But that was never our name." He gently removed the crown. The moment it left his head, every crimson symbol inside the cave turned blue. The world forgot who we truly were. The 12 guardians stood. Together, they placed one hand over their hearts. They spoke as one. "We were the Blood Keepers," Elias whispered. "Blood Keepers?" The first king nodded. "We guarded the oldest power ever created." He pointed toward the blue throne. "It was never a throne of power. It was a prison lock." Elias stared. "So the throne keeps the hunger imprisoned?" "No, it keeps something far more dangerous asleep." Silence. The keeper slowly closed his eyes. "My king, don't." The first king looked toward him. "He deserves the truth." He turned back to Elias. "Before mankind, before kingdoms, before the oceans found their shores, there was only light." He raised his hand. A brilliant blue sphere appeared above the throne. Inside it, Elias saw another world, a beautiful world, without war, without death, without darkness. The first king continued, "But light created a shadow. The shadow became the hunger. It consumed everything. Nothing could destroy it. So 13 guardians made a choice." The glowing vision changed. 13 warriors stood around a pool of crimson light. One by one, they stepped into it. Their eyes turned red. Their hearts stopped beating. Yet, they remained alive. "We surrendered our humanity to protect humanity." Elias finally understood. The blood was never a curse. The first king smiled. It was a sacrifice. Suddenly, the mountain shook harder than ever before. The blue light flickered. Cracks spread across the throne. The black mist outside began laughing. Not one voice. Thousands. The hunger had grown stronger. The keeper looked toward the ceiling. "It's breaking through." The first king calmly replaced his crown. "It is time." The 12 guardians immediately drew their weapons. Not to fight, to kneel. Every sword pointed toward the throne. Every guardian lowered their head. Elias looked around in confusion. "What are they doing?" The keeper answered quietly. "They're saying goodbye." The first king stepped onto the throne. Blue chains of light wrapped around his body, not trapping him, joining with him. His face remained peaceful. "For 7,000 years, I have been the final lock, the last seal." Elias suddenly understood. "No, if you leave, the prison opens." The first king nodded. "And if I stay, the hunger will eventually break through. There is only one path left." The chamber fell silent. The blue throne suddenly released 13 beams of light. 12 entered the ancient guardians. The 13th struck Elias. He cried out as memories flooded his mind. Ancient battles, lost kingdoms, the first sunrise, the first vampire, the first sacrifice. And finally, one forgotten prophecy. He saw words carved into a mountain that no longer existed. When the last blood keeper grows weary, a child of mankind shall take his place. Elias stepped backward. "No." The first king looked at him with gentle eyes. "I've waited 7,000 years for you." The chamber exploded with blue light. The black mist surged forward. The throne cracked from top to bottom. The hunger roared with triumph. And from beneath the shattered throne, something enormous began rising. Not shadow, not vampire, not human. A gigantic stone gate, covered in countless claw marks. Slowly, the gate began opening from the inside, and whatever was trapped beyond it had just placed its hand through the opening. The giant stone gate continued opening, slowly, relentlessly. Its ancient hinges groaned like mountains breaking apart. A single hand reached through the narrow opening. It wasn't made of flesh. It wasn't made of stone. It looked as though it had been carved from living darkness. Every finger was covered in ancient symbols. Each symbol glowed with a deep crimson light. The chamber fell silent. Even the hunger stopped laughing. The first king stared at the hand. His face lost all color. "No." It awakened. Elias looked toward him. "What is it?" The first king answered without taking his eyes off the gate. "The first prisoner. The one we never defeated." The keeper slowly lowered his silver sword. "I thought it was only a legend." So did I. Another violent tremor shook the mountain. The opening widened. A second hand appeared. Then, a pair of glowing golden eyes opened inside the darkness beyond the gate. Not crimson, not white, gold, ancient, endless. The eyes slowly blinked. The entire mountain shuddered. Outside, the sky turned blood red. Lightning struck without thunder. The forest surrounding the Black Mountain instantly became silent. Across distant villages, dogs began howling. Children woke from sleep, crying without knowing why. Something had awakened. Something the world had forgotten. The first king whispered, "The original." Elias frowned. "The original what?" The first king closed his eyes. "The first immortal. The first guardian. The first king. The first betrayer." The chamber suddenly filled with blue light. The shattered throne began repairing itself. Not by magic, by sacrifice. The blue chains wrapped tighter around the first king's body. His breathing became heavier. The keeper shouted, "My king!" The first king smiled weakly. "It still recognizes me." Elias stepped forward. "What can I do?" The keeper pointed toward the throne. "The prophecy. You are the 13th blood keeper. You must take his place." Elias immediately shook his head. "No, I can't. I don't even understand what's happening." The first king looked directly at him. "I didn't either. The day I was chosen, The 12 blood keepers slowly surrounded Elias. One by one, they removed their ancient weapons. They placed them upon the blue floor: a sword, a spear, an axe, a bow, a shield. 12 sacred weapons, each glowing with the same brilliant blue light. The first king spoke. "These are not weapons. They are promises. They have protected mankind for 7,000 years. They belong to you now." Elias looked around the chamber. "I never wanted this." The keeper quietly smiled. Neither did any of us. Suddenly, the golden eyes behind the gate narrowed. A deep voice echoed from the darkness. Not loud, yet every stone inside the mountain trembled. "Brother." The first king slowly opened his eyes, his face filled with grief. "You still remember me?" The voice answered, "I remember everything." The gate cracked wider. A massive horn slowly emerged from the darkness. Then another. Not the horns of a beast, a crown, a living crown, forged from black crystal. The original stepped closer. His face finally became visible. He looked exactly like the first king, only older, stronger. His armor was black instead of silver. His golden eyes burned like dying suns. Elias stared in disbelief. "Your brothers?" The first king nodded. "We were." The original smiled. "We still are." The chamber shook again. The original reached through the opening. The gate could barely contain him. "I warned you. I told you mankind would destroy itself. You chose to protect them." The first king answered, "Because they deserved a chance." The original laughed. "And what did they build? Wars, empires, greed. They proved I was right." Elias looked toward the hidden sky beyond the cracked ceiling. He remembered the villages, the frightened children, the old woman, the historian's journey, ordinary people. Not kings, not conquerors, just people trying to live. He looked back at the original. "They're not perfect." The original smiled. "No. They're worse." He suddenly pulled against the gate. The ancient stone exploded with deafening force. Huge cracks raced across its surface. The 12 blood keepers immediately raised their glowing weapons. The keeper lifted his silver sword. The first king placed both hands upon the throne. Blue light burst across the chamber, but it wasn't enough. The original slowly stepped forward. One foot crossed the threshold. The mountain screamed. Outside, every vampire cave, every forgotten tomb, every sealed crypt across the world began opening at the exact same moment. The first king looked at Elias. His voice was barely a whisper. "If he escapes, every prison ever built will open with him." The original smiled. He looked directly at Elias, then quietly spoke the words that froze every soul inside the chamber. "Choose wisely. Little keeper, save your world or save your king." The blue throne suddenly split completely in half, and the first king began turning into stone. The first king began turning to stone. It started with his fingertips. Gray veins spread across his hands, his arms, his chest. The blue light of the throne flickered with every passing second. The chamber trembled. The original smiled. "So, your strength finally ends." The first king looked toward Elias. His crimson eyes remained calm. "There is still time." Elias stepped forward. "No, there has to be another way." The keeper shook his head. "There never was. For 7,000 years, he carried the burden alone." The 12 blood keepers silently lowered their heads. None of them cried. They had already mourned this day, thousands of years ago. The original placed another foot through the broken gate. The mountain roared. Outside, the earth split apart. Across the world, forgotten crypts burst open. Ancient coffins cracked, stone seals collapsed. In ruined castles, sealed chambers opened by themselves. In deserts, buried tombs shook beneath the sand. Deep beneath frozen mountains, ice-covered caves split apart. Every forgotten prison was awakening. Not because monsters were escaping, because their locks had begun to fail. The original looked toward Elias. You still don't understand. The prisons were never built to keep us inside. They were built to keep mankind outside. Elias frowned. What? The original slowly raised one hand. The air above his palm shimmered. Visions appeared. He showed Elias ancient cities, great civilizations, powerful kingdoms. Each one discovered a vampire tomb. Each one ignored the warnings. Each one sought immortality. Each one destroyed itself. The visions disappeared. The original lowered his hand. Mankind has always opened. What should remain closed? The keeper answered firmly. And yet, they always choose to rebuild. The original laughed. They rebuild, only to repeat the same mistake. The first king suddenly coughed. Grey dust escaped his lips. His stone transformation had reached his shoulders. Elias, listen carefully. The young historian knelt beside him. My king. The first king smiled. I was never a king. I was simply the first man who refused to surrender. He slowly removed the black crystal crown from his head. The moment it left him, the chamber filled with blinding blue light. Every blood keeper stepped backward. Even the original became silent. Elias stared at the crown. It looked alive. Thousands of tiny crimson lines moved beneath its surface, like flowing blood. The keeper whispered, "The crown of dawn." Elias blinked. I thought it belonged to vampires. The keeper shook his head. No, it belonged to mankind. The original closed his eyes. I remember the day it was forged. It was never made to create rulers. It was made to carry sacrifice. The first king held the crown toward Elias. Take it. Elias refused. I can't. If I wear it, I become like you. The first king smiled gently. No, you become better than me. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed across the chamber. The giant gate split from top to bottom. Blue chains burst apart. The original pulled himself farther through. Half his body now stood inside the chamber. The hunger circled behind him like a living storm. The 12 blood keepers immediately formed a wall. Silver weapons glowed brighter than ever before. The original looked at them with sadness. My old friends, must we fight again? The first guardian answered. We never stopped. The original slowly drew his sword. Its blade was completely black. No reflection, no light, only endless darkness. The keeper whispered, the night blade. The only weapon that has ever broken the crown. The original pointed it toward Elias. Give me the crown. I'll end your suffering. The first king spoke with his remaining strength. If he wears it, the prison survives. If you wear it, the world ends. The mountain shook violently. Huge sections of the ceiling collapsed. Moonlight poured into the chamber. For the first time, the crown of dawn touched the light of the moon. It awakened. The crimson lines vanished. The crystal became pure gold. Not ordinary gold, living gold. The entire cave filled with a warm light, unlike anything Elias had ever felt. He suddenly heard voices, not from the chamber, from the crown itself. Thousands of voices. Every blood keeper, every guardian, every person who had ever sacrificed themselves to protect another. They all spoke together. A crown does not choose the strongest. It chooses the one willing to lose everything. Tears filled Elias's eyes. He finally understood. The crown had never searched for power. It had searched for selflessness. The original's expression changed. For the first time, fear appeared in his golden eyes. No, it chose him, the first king smiled. Yes, it finally did. The golden crown slowly floated into the air. It descended toward Elias, just inches above his head. It stopped. Then, instead of resting upon him, it passed straight through his body. A brilliant explosion of golden light filled the mountain. Every vampire cave, every forgotten tomb, every ancient crypt across the world answered the light. One by one, they began glowing beneath the earth, as though something far older than vampires had just awakened. Deep below the shattered throne, another hidden door slowly opened. Behind it, someone quietly whispered, "The last keeper has finally returned." The golden light faded. Silence returned. Elias slowly opened his eyes. The shattered throne was gone. The broken gate had disappeared. Even the original was nowhere to be seen. He stood alone, or so he thought. A soft voice echoed through the darkness. "Look down." Elias lowered his eyes. The stone floor beneath his feet had become transparent. Far below, not hundreds of feet, not thousands, an entire world existed beneath the mountain. A city, impossible in its size. Countless towers carved from black crystal. Endless bridges suspended over rivers of glowing blue light. Thousands of castles, millions of silent homes, every street perfectly preserved, not abandoned, waiting. The keeper slowly appeared beside him. "You've reached the first city," Elias whispered. "This was hidden." "Under the mountain?" The keeper shook his head. "No, it was hidden. Beneath every mountain." He raised one hand. The transparent floor changed. Elias saw vampire caves across the world, Roman catacombs, forgotten temples, ancient pyramids, buried monasteries, abandoned castles, every single one connected to the same underground city. They're all the same place. The keeper nodded. Every tomb, every crypt, every cave. They were never prisons. They were entrances. The city stretched farther than the eye could see. It wasn't built for thousands. It was built for an entire civilization. Elias looked around in disbelief. "Who lived here?" The answer came from behind him. "We did." The 12 blood keepers stood together, but they no longer wore armor. Their silver weapons had vanished. Instead, they wore simple robes. They no longer looked like warriors. They looked like ordinary people. Teachers, builders, writers, parents. The first guardian smiled. "We weren't created for war. We only became soldiers when the world needed them." Another guardian pointed toward the endless city. "We built libraries. We studied the stars. We healed diseases. We protected knowledge. We watched over mankind, without being seen." Elias slowly realized something. So all the vampire legends were lies. The first king quietly appeared behind the throne's former place. His body was still turning to stone, but more slowly now. Not lies, memories. He walked toward one enormous building. Unlike the others, it had no doors, only 13 pillars, each carved with countless names. Above them, a single inscription, "The Hall of Every Keeper." The pillars suddenly began glowing. Faces appeared inside the stone, thousands of them. Every blood keeper who had ever lived, every guardian who had ever sacrificed everything. They all looked toward Elias. Then they bowed. Not to a king, not to a vampire, to the last keeper. Elias stepped backward. "I don't deserve this." The first king smiled. "Neither did we." A deep rumble echoed across the city. The original's voice rolled through every street. Enough memories. The age of hiding is over. The sky above the underground city suddenly cracked. Not the ceiling, the sky itself. Black lightning spread across it. The hunger poured through the cracks like an endless sea. The beautiful city began fading. Buildings crumbled into dust. Blue rivers turned black. The hall of every keeper trembled. The keeper looked toward Elias. He found the city. How? The crown. When it awakened, every hidden place awakened with it. The original slowly descended from the darkness. He no longer forced his way through the gate. The gate no longer existed. He walked across the black sky itself. The hunger surrounded him like a royal cloak. He looked down at the ancient city. I built this place. I buried this place. And now, I will erase it forever. The 12 blood keepers immediately stood before Elias, not to protect themselves, to protect him. The first king slowly removed the last piece of stone from his heart. Only his face remained alive. He spoke quietly. Elias, the city cannot be saved. Elias looked around. Then what can? The first king pointed toward the hall of every keeper. What's inside? The giant building suddenly began opening. Not outward, upward. Its roof dissolved into blue light. At its center rested a single object. Not a weapon, not a crown, a book. Massive, bound in white stone. Its pages turned by themselves. Every page contained thousands of names. Every human life ever protected. Every sacrifice ever made. The keeper whispered, "The Book of Dawn." The original's expression immediately changed. No. He raised the night blade. The hunger screamed. Black storms descended toward the book. The first king shouted, "Elias! Don't let him reach it!" Elias ran. The blood keepers charged beside him. The original descended from the sky. The distance between them closed rapidly. Only a few steps remained. The Book of Dawn suddenly opened by itself. Its blank final page began writing, without anyone touching it. One sentence appeared in glowing blue letters. The name of the last keeper. The writing paused. Then, the final name slowly began to appear. The final page continued writing. No hand touched it. No pen moved. The glowing blue letters simply appeared, one by one. Every blood keeper stopped fighting. Every shadow froze. Even the hunger became silent. The original stared at the Book of Dawn. No, it cannot choose him. The first king whispered, "It already has." Elias reached the ancient book. Its pages turned faster. Thousands, millions, every sacrifice, every forgotten hero, every guardian who had ever stood between darkness and mankind. Their names filled the pages. Then, the final page stopped. One name appeared, not in blue, in gold. Elias of Mankind. The mountain shook. The entire underground city burst into brilliant light. Every pillar surrounding the hall of every keeper began glowing. The faces carved into the stone smiled. Then they vanished. Not because they were gone, because they had finally found their successor. The keeper slowly knelt. The last keeper has been chosen. One by one, the 12 blood keepers knelt beside him. Even the first king, whose body was almost completely stone, bowed his head. The original alone remained standing. His golden eyes burned with sorrow. I warned you. This choice always ends the same. Elias closed the Book of Dawn. I don't believe that. The original looked toward the hidden city. You will. He slowly removed the black crystal crown from his own head. For the first time, Elias saw the man's face clearly. Not cruel, not evil, only exhausted. I was once exactly like you. The chamber became silent. The first king quietly nodded. He speaks the truth. The original continued. I was chosen. I protected mankind. I watched kingdoms rise. I watched them fall. I watched brothers kill brothers. I watched greed consume every generation. I buried entire civilizations to keep this secret alive. His voice grew softer, and eventually, hope died. The hunger behind him pulsed like a living heartbeat. It didn't corrupt me. It convinced me. Elias stared at him. So you surrendered. The original smiled sadly. No, I simply stopped believing that mankind could change. Silence spread across the city. The words hung in the air. The first king slowly stepped beside Elias. I made the opposite choice. I believed, even when there was no reason to. The two ancient brothers looked at each other. Neither hated the other. Neither reached for a weapon. They had been fighting, the same argument, for 7,000 years. Hope or despair. The original slowly raised the night blade. Then let the last keeper decide. He pointed toward the Book of Dawn. If hope truly survives, prove it. Suddenly, the hunger exploded across the underground city. Black rivers poured through every street. Crystal towers collapsed. Ancient bridges shattered. The hall of every keeper cracked from its foundation. The Book of Dawn slipped from Elias's hands. Before it touched the ground, it opened again. This time, every page became blank. The keeper gasped. No, the memories, they're disappearing. Every blood keeper began fading, not dying, being erased. Their names vanished from the pillars. Their faces disappeared from the walls. 7,000 years of sacrifice were being forgotten. The original closed his eyes. This is what the hunger truly destroys. Not lives, memory. When sacrifice is forgotten, evil begins again. The first king's stone body continued spreading upward. Only his eyes still moved. Elias, remember. The young historian looked around desperately. What do I do? The first king smiled. You do what every storyteller has done since the beginning. Tell the truth. The Book of Dawn suddenly lifted into the air. Its blank pages filled once more. Not with ancient names, with Elias's own memories. The old woman in the village, the frightened children, the abandoned monastery, the mountain, the guardians, the sacrifices, everything he had seen. The keeper whispered, the book no longer records the past. It records the witness. The original suddenly understood. His golden eyes widened. No, if mankind remembers, the hunger cannot win. The black storm surged toward the floating book. The night blade rose high above his head. The entire underground city began collapsing. Stone rained from the ceiling. Blue light battled endless darkness. The Book of Dawn hovered between Elias and the original. Then, a single page tore itself free. It floated gently into Elias's hands. Only one sentence was written upon it. The last battle is never won by a sword. Before Elias could read the final line, the entire mountain split open. Sunlight, for the first time in 7,000 years, poured into the hidden city, and something within that light began descending. Sunlight poured into the hidden city. For 7,000 years, no dawn had touched these halls. The black mist screamed. The hunger retreated, not because sunlight destroyed it, because this was no ordinary light. It was the first dawn, the same light that had existed before kingdoms, before history, before fear. Elias stood beneath the opening mountain. The torn page from the Book of Dawn remained in his hands. The final sentence slowly completed itself. The last battle is never won by a sword. It is won by the truth that survives. The words began glowing. Then they vanished, not erased, absorbed into Elias. The original lowered the night blade. The book has chosen its final author. The keeper smiled. It always does. High above, the first dawn continued descending. It wasn't a beam of light. It was a woman. She wore robes woven from pure white light. Her silver hair flowed like morning mist. A simple golden crown rested upon her head. She carried no weapon, only a lantern. Inside the lantern burned the same blue flame that had once sealed the prison. The 12 blood keepers immediately knelt. The first king bowed his head. Even the original fell to one knee. Elias whispered, "Who is she?" The keeper answered softly, "The first witness, the one who remembered when everyone else forgot." She stopped before Elias. Her eyes held neither judgment nor fear, only kindness. She placed the lantern into his hands. The light does not destroy darkness. It reminds people that dawn always returns. The hunger roared. The entire hidden city shook violently. The black storm gathered every remaining shadow into one enormous form. For the first time, the hunger revealed itself completely. It had no face, no body, only an endless darkness shaped like a giant reaching toward the heavens. Its voice echoed across the world. "They will forget again. They always do." The first witness quietly nodded. "Many will, but not all." The hunger laughed. One generation remembers. The next one doubts. The third one mocks. The fourth one repeats the same mistakes. The original lowered his eyes. "He speaks the truth." The first king answered, "Only half of it." He turned toward Elias. "The other half belongs to mankind." Elias looked at the lantern, then at the book of dawn. Every blank page filled with new words, not ancient prophecies, not magical spells, history, the true history, the sacrifices, the guardians, the hidden city, the 13 blood keepers, the first king, the original, the mountain, the prison, everything. The hunger lunged toward the book. Before it could reach Elias, the original stepped in front of it. The black storm stopped. The original looked at his brother. "For 7,000 years, I believed fear would save mankind." The first king smiled, "And I believed hope would." The original slowly broke the night blade across his knee. The black sword shattered into countless fragments. I was wrong. The shattered pieces became stars. One by one, they rose into the sky. The hunger screamed. Without despair, it began shrinking. Without forgotten sacrifices, it became weaker. Without fear, it had nothing left to feed upon. The first witness raised the lantern. Its blue flame joined the first dawn. The hidden city filled with golden light. Every broken building repaired itself. Every crystal tower shone once more. The hall of every keeper stood complete. The names returned to every pillar, not because they had been rewritten, because they had never truly been lost. The first king's stone body slowly returned to flesh. The original's golden eyes softened. The 12 blood keepers smiled. For the first time in 7,000 years, they were no longer prisoners. They were free. The keeper walked toward the great gate. With one gentle touch, it disappeared forever. No more prisons, no more hidden kings, no more endless watch. The first witness looked at Elias. "What will you do now?" He closed the book of dawn. "I'll tell the story." She smiled. "Some will believe. Most won't. That has never mattered. What matters is that someone remembers." The hidden city slowly faded, not destroyed. Hidden, not beneath the earth, beyond it. The Black Mountain returned to silence. Its caves became empty. Its tombs became ordinary stone. No chains, no symbols, no crimson eyes, only forgotten ruins. Years later, Elias published a strange book. Scholars dismissed it as fiction. Kings laughed at it. Priests debated it. Travelers searched for the mountain. No one ever found it again. Yet, every so often, a lone traveler wandering through forgotten valleys would discover an ancient cave. Inside, they would find a single empty tomb. Above it, 7 simple words remained carved into the stone. They were never buried to die. They were buried to stand watch. And somewhere beyond every map, beneath a sky no ordinary traveler would ever see, 13 ancient guardians still watched the horizon. Not because they feared the darkness, but because they believed that as long as even one person remembered the truth, the dawn would always return.